Welcome to the Tell Her podcast, a place where we share stories from extraordinary, ordinary women, delve into what it's really like behind closed doors when dealing with life's ups and downs, and how women get the courage and push through and get up every day and carry on with our ordinary lives while doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Sharni Knighton, and I cannot wait for you to meet some of the incredible women that I get to meet through my work as a hair loss specialist. So welcome to the Tell Her podcast. I'm here with Victoria Scott. She is my go-to when it comes to referrals for trichology, any help and support that I need with clients, guidance, anything that's going to help me and the client be successful when it comes to wearing a hair system or deciding that a hair system's not the right thing for them.
Hello.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you into trichology?
So I'm just going to move this paper because it's
distracting.
Yeah, it's distracting. I really want to read
Let's
it.
start
Sorry.
again.
So yes, my background really. Well, I left school, did a few sort of like bits and bobs. I actually wanted to go in the Royal Marines.
Oh, wow.
And I was told that they didn't allow women on the front line. So back then they were allowed to do things like that. So I ended up as being sent for the day because my mum was a single parent.
Yeah.
From being the age of 14, both me and my brother both had part-time jobs.
Yeah.
And mine was in a salon.
Ah, okay.
So obviously the careers advisor turned around and said to me, "What is there anything you do?" And I go, "Well, I work on a Saturday as a, sort of shampooer."
Yeah.
So she sent me to the Grimsby College and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. So I came away from school sort of like none the wiser. And then after I think we finished in the sort of May, June, and by the sort of January, my mum was like, "You are not working in the local shop, or you're not doing this.
Yeah.
You need to go and do something with your life." I think your parents always see what your potential is, but you don't see that, do you? So I went and enrolled at the local, it was more of an academy than it was the big college, and it was fantastic. I loved it. And because obviously I'd got the experience from being a Saturday girl, I sped up. I didn't end up sort of like back compared to the other guys. Loved it. And worked in a few different salons within the town centre when I was a junior. Very difficult to find my place. I think I prefer to work on my own. Yeah. But with trichology, the first time I came across that I was 19. Okay. And I was at Alcrest, the academy that I trained at when I did my training, and I did my teacher training there as well, which is so I trained there, and I went back for that. Yeah. But I can't remember the magazine. I think it was Hairdresser's Journal or something like that. Okay. That I was reading. And I will tell you now. I was going to say, I won't tell you. I think I was on a cigarette break in the car with the Hairdresser's Journal back in the day when you did things like that. And I remember seeing this article, and it was written by somebody from the Institute of Trichologists. Okay. And I remember, because I love science. Tell me why, don't show me how. Yes. Do you know? So I love when I can see a diagram of something, or rather than actually, sort of physically touching, I'm a bit more of a sort of science kind of.
You like that with your hairdressing then?
Exactly. And I think that's visual I was always very much sort of led in that direction. So for me, and I think that's why it made me a very different kind of practitioner. So as a hairdresser, even as an employer, when I had the salon and things like that, even as a teacher, I sort of used to break everything down into sort of like in like a scientific rhythm. Yeah. So, and I would think of things rather than aesthetically, which a lot of hairdressers do. They look at the bigger picture of the outside. Yeah. I used to think of everything internally. Yeah. So for me, and I think that's why it made me a very conscientious stylist, because I would never push a boundary. Well, we all have accidental boundaries that happen, but for me it was like, do no harm. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing in my life. Yeah. My ethos, shall we say, is do no harm. Yeah. So never. It's always been, like we said earlier on, about patient-centred. So it was client-centred back then. So everything was around, is that right for that client's hair? Okay. So rather than thinking, just go for it, we'll earn some money off this, it was never about, I've never been one of these people that want to be rich. I just want to do the job right.
Yeah, you want to do well.
So that's the thing. Yeah. But I remember at 19 reading this magazine in the car park, like I said, and looking at this article and thinking, wow, they know everything. Do you know? and just thinking they were like gods. And I was like,
I can't. A light bulb moment.
Yeah, it was. And I remember, I think, I know I rang them. I can remember ringing.
You?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I think I even sent them a letter maybe by carrier pigeon back then. But literally, like, I remember ringing them and talking about the course fees.
Okay.
And you've got to remember, at 19 years old, I was living on still what was back then like a YT apprentice wage. Because
God, what was it?
I think I was on about £37 a week.
Oh, God, I remember.
But I did have four.
Days.
I remember when I was at college, I had 4 jobs.
Yeah.
So I did have more money than that. But I was like, I did remember thinking to myself, this is not doable. I can't remember the cost of it, but I remember speaking to somebody about it.
Okay.
And I do remember sending a letter in. So I think...
That's amazing.
But yeah, like I say, I carry a pigeon. But literally, it was then in my head. And I always remember, like, if you spoke to any of them, if my staff was here now that I've worked with over the years, or people that I've worked with within the hairdressing industry, they'd always talk about me and my obsession with trichology.
Yeah.
Do you know? I always said to people, I will do it, I will do it, I will do it. And when I was 23, with the help of my mum, I bought a salon. Yeah. And I was really more bothered about being their friend more than anything. Yeah. I found it really difficult to sort of, we've had this conversation before, sort of like separate the two.
Me too.
So, and because I'm quite a passionate person, after sort of 7 or 8 years, I thought employing people, or a lot of my staff were self-employed, but they don't have the same passion and drive. Yeah. Even though they had passion and drive, it wasn't my passion and drive.
It's trying to create like a culture.
Yeah.
Like a salon culture.
So literally for me, it was just a case of financially, I'm all right. Do you know, I've got a fantastic home life. So I decided there and then that I did try my teaching just to see if that would help me.
Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah. Just because I like to educate, and I'm really quite one of these people, give somebody else to empower them.
Yeah.
But I just thought it's not really for me. Teenagers are great, but I haven't got any children. So for me, I felt like I was parenting them, and I was like, I'm not here to parent you, I'm here to teach you.
Did you teach like in a college environment?
In the Alcrest Academy. Well, I did my teacher training there, and I used to do sort of workshops and things like that. But I never really... I qualified, had a bit of experience there, and then I was just a little bit like, I don't think this is for me either.
Okay.
So I left. My husband just said, just do it. And so I went to the institute, and the hairdressing sort of like went this way, and the trichology went that way.
The thing is, like, all of those things building up to that trichology course make you better at what you're doing now, don't they? So it's like your journey has been the right journey, because with your teaching skills...
Oh, transferable skills. That is one of my... Because things that I've learned and especially in the last few years, some of the transferable skills that I have learned over the years is just, you think you know everything, and then all of a sudden you'll turn around a corner and somebody will say something to you and you think, wow, I've just learned something new, and I didn't even realise. I learn things
every day. I love it. I love learning, like, with the community that I'm trying to build with the education. I love that we learn from each other. It's like, I don't want there to be any hierarchy. It's like, we're in this community together. Like, I like to teach from experience. So whether it's a good experience I've had or a bad one, I'll pass that information on. And then my students come and they teach me things from their experiences, and just like try and, like you say, transfer the skills from one another, even if they've not been gone off somewhere and learnt them. But I think being able to be open to learning and understanding that we're on our own journey is really important. Like, I'm learning every day from clients, every time I come across something new, and, like say, reassessing all the time. And I love that your journey has been one that's led you where you knew you were going anyway.
Oh yeah, massively.
But the skills that you took along the way are important for what you're doing now, aren't they?
And it's life lessons. Do you know, like, along the way, some of the things that I've learned about myself as well, because I'm a control freak. I'm really impatient. I like my own company. Do you know, that kind of thing? I like to help people. And I like to sort of be involved in that kind of thing, but I also like to be able to step back and live. And I think sometimes you need to dip your toe into different environments. A lot of people actually said to me when I got to 40, you'll find your place now. And actually, that's it.
Yeah.
They did. Do you know, you sort of think, because I've sort of got to the point where I'm not really bothered about other people so much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm more bothered about myself and my surrounding people.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like your world gets smaller.
It does. It does.
But it's so much more cozier.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
Did you find, because you are like, so just going back to being like a salon owner, when you had the salon, you're trying to create like this culture of people that think and feel the same way as you, and you're trying your best and giving so much, it's quite draining. And then I think when you step into your own environment, I find what I enjoy is that I still get to like help people who have the same mindset, but I don't have the responsibility as far as like every day making sure they're in work and that kind of thing, and they can come to me when they need the help. So I get to enjoy it like from a distance.
From afar, yeah.
Yeah, and then that takes the pressure off me and allows me to learn more, be more creative, instead of being bogged down by all of this responsibility of running a salon.
Yeah.
And that's part of specialising, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
I think I was very lucky that I did have great staff.
Yeah.
I had lots of staff. Well, my main staff, my hairdressing staff sort of stayed.
Yeah.
But you have like junior staff sort of float around and things like that, and a few sort of like come. And I was very lucky.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people maybe wasn't as lucky as what I was, but like I say, my expectations are through the roof. So if those expectations aren't being met, out you go.
I think
and I don't even mean skill set wise.
Yeah,
for me, it was
person.
Yeah, it was a person.
Yeah,
so I remember interviewing, and one of my stylists was in the interview with me, and I said, the one thing there's nothing worse than coming to work and feeling like there's an atmosphere.
Oh, no,
and I remember feeling off this person we was interviewing, this really sort of toxic. And I just turned around and said, the one thing we don't do is gossip.
Yes, we had a new gossip policy.
Yeah. And that was, and I think you have to make a boundary.
Yeah.
But it is, I think I learned a lot being an employee about myself, but I was very young.
Yeah.
So not many people have a business at 20, do you know, employ 7 or 8 people at 23, 24. Do you know, it is. It's
but
huge.
like you say, you've learned a lot from it, and you understand hairdressers. Like obviously being one yourself, but also like for people like me that are coming to ask for help.
Yeah.
And you know how to help us in a way that we feel safe. So it's not just making the client feel safe, but I think the stylist needs to feel safe that she can admit, I'm out in my depth.
Yeah.
And having somewhere, like having those managerial skills means that
and knowing what they're asking for.
Yes.
Because a stylist may come to me and they'll go, da 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 da. So they'll give me a little bit, and I know because I've lived that what they're asking me for is advice, rather than somebody who hasn't got a hairdressing background would be like, oh, what does she mean, or what does he mean?
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't understand it. I need to be there. I need to see it. Whereas actually, hairdressing speak.
Yes,
I understand it. Do you know?
Even if we're going round in circles, we don't want to get where we're
like, stop. What do you see?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Right, next bit. And pause.
And pause.
That was really good. So
it's really quite easy to
once you start chatting, it is good.
Yeah.
It's quite fast, isn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously before we was gonna, let's not do but I'm gonna say we were gonna do the myths, but I feel like it's just so done.
Yeah. We're over that.
Yeah, let's talk about like, so I'll say like we we're going to talk about myths, but we feel like there's so much information out there already on the internet, you can find that. But let's talk about the journey into, how did you say it earlier?
I've drunk so much, I just feel like it's repeated.
Well, have a little walk.
Yeah, have a wiggle.
How did you say it earlier?
What's that?
You said about, instead of talking about the myths, talk about did you say like the journey to seeking help?
Where? I don't think I wrote that. I think it just fell out of my mouth.
Okay. But I think maybe more talk about like if you start to notice something, like when is the time to go, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next bit that we were going to talk about, we was going to go over myths and bust some myths, but we were just saying before camera came on that it's out there. There's so much stuff, and I think
internet is flooded.
Yeah, it's flooded. And what's more important is for people to understand when to try and seek help and what path they can take. what is normal and what isn't, and that it's okay. Because one of the things that I notice is that if somebody does come at the beginning of their journey, they almost feel guilty, and they'll say, oh, no, it's not as bad as everybody else's. And I try and explain to them that it's not about, I try and explain to them that it's not about where they are on the journey, it's about how it's affecting them mentally. And that if they're only shedding a little bit in the beginning, but they know a difference in their hair, it's okay to seek help at that point, and that might actually be their savior. And especially with like frontal fibrosis and alopecia, people wait quite a long time because it is such a slow process. And I know that there's not really that much that we can do out there for that, but I think the mental health side of it, the answers would be enough. So what would you say would be some red flags?
So I'll just go to the frontal fibrosis and alopecia. So I'll bring that into the sort of like when to seek help.
Yeah.
Like we both said this earlier on, that we've got like a nice little tuft of hair growing on the top of our head because we both feel like we've shed. I know what mine is. I know my causative factor.
Yeah.
But literally, I had a good old look at my scalp when it started, but I know what caused it.
Yeah.
So if you have something that is not normal, find normal for you.
Yeah.
Ask somebody. So for us as trichologists, some people come to us and they go, I'm losing hair, it's not at my normal rate, and it's been going on for if it's going on for say more than 2 to 3 weeks, then I would ask for a little bit of help from somebody.
Okay.
Not saying, sorry, I'm doing exactly the same as you, choking on my own voice, but literally, because if it's out of the ordinary for you, seek help.
Yes.
Because the longer you leave something, the harder it is to treat. Yeah. So, because say, for instance, if we go to one of the most simplest forms of hair loss, which is telogen effluvium, which is what mine is. I don't know what yours is, but I know what mine is.
For anyone that doesn't know what that is.
Telogen effluvium. It's where we shed hairs in a loss phase sooner than they should have been lost. And they tend to come out maybe not all at the same time, but something will affect us. So it will be something like, we call it post-febrile. So after a temperature, postpartum hair loss is classed as telogen effluvium. Yeah. We have things like, even down to things like shock. So I've had people come to me who've had a car accident. 3 months later, 30% of the hair starts coming out. Yeah. And it often, with telogen effluvium, what happens is the initial insult or the cause of the actual hair loss, it doesn't come out on that day.
Yes.
It actually, and every single one of us is very unique. So for some people, it can be a couple of months after, because you've got to remember that hair is encapsulated in a nice little sort of sticky little residue inside of your scalp growing happily. It gets a shock. It stops feeding it. That hair then sheds, which is the effluvium. So basically the hair will then start to come out of the hair canal and sort of shed as if an hair would naturally do in its own growth cycle. But it's some of these are happening all at the same time. Okay. So now my brain's gone dead.
Does that mean that because like from my hairdresser brain, when one's coming out, you've got one waiting?
Yes.
So if it's come out too early, this one that waiting is not ready to come.
Oh, well, everybody's very unique in that respect. Yeah. So normally there is. Yeah. Yeah. So should we say normal telogen effluvium? She says with little. There is normally a hair waiting to sort of like, because the hair naturally cellularly wants to turn over. Yeah. Do you know that cell wants to continue to turn over, so a new one will grow behind it. Yeah. So, but it has a causative factor. Okay. Can we just stop a minute because my brain is just.
It's fine. A lot of information.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm talking with my hands.
I keep squinting.
So. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm just trying to think what the initial question was, and then
I was asking what telogen effluvium. I can't say those words.
Yeah,
they're so.
How do you say it?
I can't. I'm not.
Telogen effluvium.
Telogen effluvium.
That's it. Perfect.
I always, even with my students, I'm like that telogen thing.
Yeah, So basically, the effluvium of those telogen hairs, telogen hairs, whatever you want to call them, is. The telogen is the loss phase of the hair, but it's actually something that insults the actual growth of that normal anagen hair, the growing hair,
yes,
makes it shed earlier.
yeah.
So we need to find that causative factor, and that's why early intervention is better, because if we can find it,
okay,
we can know whether it will self-correct.
yes,
Or if we can't find it, so an idiopathic, so something that we can't actually sort of lay our hands on,
okay,
we can actually test, and then we can sort of say, right, we'll send you to the GP, or we'll do this privately, you know, whichever way, depending on what the effects are, and if they've got any other co-symptoms,
yes,
we will sort of test to see if we can find it. Then we can actually treat the underlying cause of the telogen effluvium. If it lasts for longer than 6 months, it's classed as chronic telogen effluvium.
Yeah.
And chronic telogen effluvium has more of a lasting effect on people, because it keeps cycling that hair.
I have clients
and it's just, but actually it's and I have some patients that come to me and we never really actually quite get
why.
But there is treatments out there that we can use to hold that hair in that growth phase and prevent this, even if, which is very rare, but we do find somebody that actually we're like, well, we've been treating it with this, and actually it's not helping, I say, after a year to 18 months, you know, kind of thing. So there's lots of things you can do, but early intervention is key.
Important.
It's really key.
I tend to get a lot of clients with that who are just going through menopause or perimenopausal, and usually refer, I usually refer into you.
Yeah.
And then what I'll usually do with them is give them like a 12-month period. And I'm like, let's do what we're going to do for 12 months alongside the trichologist, make sure that I'm not going to affect what you're doing. And a lot of time they can recover.
Like you said, if you was, because some people would just have put, they'd be thinking pound signs. I can actually, because this patient at this minute is very vulnerable, because at that point they are very vulnerable. You could sell them the world and they will buy into it.
It's like fake promises, and it's,
and
all you're going to do is cause mental health issues in future.
And lasting damage even, because if that telogen effluvium isn't telogen effluvium, and it's just that it looks like that to start with, and you go and put a system on that, fix that over their hair for 6 weeks, they take that off in 6 weeks, and actually it was diffuse alopecia areata, say, then we've got a totally different ball game, and we've left it for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and one of my fears is that the hair's trying to tell us something else.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm like, because I have a lot of clients that come in and they're going through treatments, or they have other immune issues and stuff. If somebody comes in that's new and they've got no diagnosis and they don't know what's going on, I'm always like, what I don't want to be doing is seeing this client for a year, and then we find out that there's something seriously wrong and that something's failing. I don't know if your kidneys and your livers and stuff would have that effect, but I would feel terribly guilty if the hair loss was the first sign. And we've masked it. It is
always the first sign. Your hair's a Z organ, it's fed last. So within your sort of systemic, your system, your whole body system, your hair is a Z organ. It's not needed. So we don't need to keep ourselves warm like we did, you know, sort of like in...
You need to tell my tune that.
But we don't. So really your body, if your body, say for instance, you've got, I don't know, like inflammation somewhere. So say for instance, there's a problem with, like you just said about kidneys. So if you've got an inflammatory kidney disorder or something like that, your body will send the energy. It's intelligent enough to send the energy to that to fix it. But what it will do is stop feeding the things it doesn't need. Skin, hair, nails, and eyesight as well. Do you know, we have a lot of people with eye, do you know, sort of like changes, because it is unnecessary. Do you know, for our bodies to be able to function, your body knows how to shut itself down well. It's like it's a really good computer. So hair is always an initial factor. Not with everybody though. So like for me, hair has never been an initial factor for me. Which is
better to be safe than sorry though, isn't it? So like I don't want to scare anybody, but I want to go into something knowing that I'm doing the right thing for them and protecting their health and, like say, the mental health and stuff like that. And then they know exactly what they're going into. Plus, I think if you don't, even if the client, I think, says that, oh, no, it's fine, I've had it forever, they will have in the back of the mind, I wonder if it's that, I wonder if it's that. And that will affect them. And then that is the stress of not knowing why they've got this hair loss. So I just think, see it as a first sign for anything, whether that is stress or, like say, something wrong with the body. The last thing I would ever want to do is take that vulnerable person, sell them a system, a wig or anything else without them knowing
Do
their
no
why.
harm.
Yeah, do no harm. And at the end of the day, like even as a business, so at the end of the day, like you say, we have to speak about like the investment, the costs and stuff like that. As a business, I want to work with clients who I can take care of right through their journey, whether that's like I call it a growth plan. So if I know someone's only going to be with me for 12 months, like I know that I can take care of them. We're going to have this nice journey together. I can support them. If I take them on and then we're all over and we're seeing damage and we don't know what we're doing, that is not a nice business experience either.
No.
It's not a nice experience for the client. It's not nice for me. And financially, it'll cost more money because we'll have to correct things and do all of that stuff. And it just doesn't make sense to me to not do that process at the beginning and feed into a specialist.
Yeah.
And I think people need to see the bigger picture. I think clients having the confidence to seek help, but stylists having the confidence to seek help, we just need to create that clear path for everybody and work together and know that it's not... One of the things, this is completely off track, but one of the things that really pet peeves me on social media is shaming. So for me, if somebody's doing harm and they know they're doing harm and they're repeatedly doing that harm, that's very different. So that's like an ethics thing. If somebody come to me and they've been somewhere else and they've not had a great experience, I'm like, why? Like, what was lacking? Did the stylist not have a trichologist? Did they not have a mentor? Did they not have the correct training? Like, there's not many hairdressers out there that want to cause harm or hair loss specialists. 90% of us have all got the same, we're all doing it for the same reason. And I think shaming somebody online builds that fear even more. So when somebody's putting, this client's come to me and then they show all of the damage, I'm like, that is just fear-mongering the client. It's also fear-mongering the stylist who would usually try and seek help, but now they're not going to seek help. So I just want to create like a clear, safe place where we can come. People know that they can like connect with you. If they're too far away, then you'll help them find someone closer because you've done that for quite a lot of people already.
There's registers of accredited trichologists and qualified people, because there is a very grey line between. Because somebody can go on like a 2-day course. I went to London backwards and forwards for a few years. So,
but you can do a 2-day course and call yourself a trichologist.
Well, it's a little bit like hairdressing. It's not standardised, really.
That's crazy.
But it is now. We are, as an institute,
building your own.
Yes. Okay. So now they're PSA assured. So we've got like that professional standards authority. We have, they're looking towards like their certifications now. They're the only people, the Institute of Trichologists are the only people that have the level 5 qualification for trichology. Perfect. There is a few providers of level 4, and but it's about finding somebody that has, if you're looking for a trichologist, look for the organisations like the, I'm a member of the Institute of Trichologists, there's the World Trichological Society, there's the International Association of Trichologists. If you find these, there is, I think that's the, off the top of my head, we can always put this in.
Put them in the show
we can pop them in the
notes.
But off the top of my head, they would be my 3.
Do that.
Yeah, they are my 3. There's the Association of Registered Trichologists Art as well. Because I know a few of my colleagues that are members of that association. I think that's the way I've said it's correct, but art anyway. So, but if you went on to, even if you just put trichologists qualified or registered trichologists into Google, you will come up with these organisations, and finding somebody near you is so simple. You would just, all of the websites have a postcode. Just put your postcode in here and we will find somebody close to you, and you can pick them based on how their website. I have a few people that have come to me because they like the way that I come across, and because I'm not social, because I'm the most, I'm doing this now, but I'm the most
doing it
petrified person for things like that. So, but they like that because I'm private. Do you know?
For me as well, what I think is important when you're getting any kind of information, whether it's trichology, dermatology, anything, is to go independent, because I know when I send a client to you, you are not thinking about what's best in my interest or my business interest. You are thinking about that client. And if that client then is told they can't have a system, that's amazing.
Well, how many times have I sent them back to you and go, you cannot fix a system to this client's hair?
Exactly.
It has to be removable.
Yeah.
Do you know, whatever, you are going to have to find a way, and there is no stop, do you know, because you have to think of client-centred, patient-centred.
I think that's why I like working with someone independent with their own practice, and you're protecting in your own way.
There is a few organisations that do. I know there's one that's just started. Don't ask me what it's called, but we'll put it in the But literally, they work. There's a few of them, but they work around the country, and they do work together, and they do a lot of online practice, and that's fantastic.
I think I just find it if the journey, because like I feel like we were talking about like a journey and a path, and if on that journey and a path there isn't independent people, how do you know that you're not only working on a one track? So like if I did a trichology course and then I had control of all of that journey, I feel like that would cloud my judgment. Does that make sense? Like if I was like, oh, I can do this treatment on you, then I'll do it without getting a second opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like it's clouding your judgment because it's all
totally.
It's all just in-house.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel like working with other independent people, like I referred to others, like not long ago I referred to another hairdresser, hair loss specialist who does similar to me, but she also does another technique. The client came to me. I could have put a system on her, but I knew it wasn't the best thing for her. So I referred her over to another specialist who does a slightly different technique, and that works for her. So I feel like sending her there, she could then get another consultation, and we could figure out if it is the right thing without it all just being...
No offence, but if we build a house, we get a few quotes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And she actually I've got the message on my phone. She messaged me New Year's Eve, a massive thank you. Like she's working with this other specialist. She absolutely loves her hair. She's got herself back. And it's the same. I just think having those independent people outside of what you do is just so important. Yeah. Like if we try and be a jack of all trades, the judgment...
Rather than a master of one.
Yeah. And I just think it's important that the client then can get all these different opinions, figure out what's best for them, and then choose that path.
That's really important, because you've just made my brain sort of like come alive, because one of the things that I say to my patients, I don't sell them anything.
No. That's me, yeah.
Because I can provide a service. So I have a compound pharmacist that I work with who's fantastic. And I've also got you as I go into for systems. I've got, if I want a human hair wig, if I want a synthetic wig, something just to...
you'll have lots of people
there's lots
that you
of
can
different
feed
people.
Into,
And I always say to them, believe me when I'm giving you this, because I'm not trying to sell you into something. I'm actually doing it because this is what you need.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And having that kind of trust from somebody, that's what makes me happy. Yeah. That they've actually trusted my what I'm actually telling them, and actually thinking, yeah. Because sometimes I've seen this happen with practitioners. They're scrambling to earn a decent wage, and I just think what they're trying to do is just pull it back.
Do you know what I think it is as well? I spoke about this yesterday. I think as hairdressers, especially, I don't know about like the other industries, but consultations were about selling yourself and selling the service, and you should close it at the end. When you do something like this, when you're working with more vulnerable people or people going through treatment, not everybody is vulnerable. Some people are like, they're fine with it.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is that you cannot sell. It cannot be a selling process. It has to be an education process. And then I spoke about it yesterday and just said, if I have somebody come in to see me and I can tell straight away that they might be vulnerable and they might people please me, so they'll agree with everything I'm saying, and that if I was like, right, shall we take your deposit now, they would do it, but because of they would feel pressured. It's not necessarily something that they want to do. Like I will, as soon as they walk through the door, make it very clear that we won't be booking an appointment by the end of the consultation. It's like, we're not here to book anything.
And that's why I'm referring to you.
Yeah, thank you. But it's like, I think taking that pressure off of them, straight away they feel like, oh, I can relax now, I can actually ask. My belly's rumbling. I can't hear it on camera. Yeah, it's like takes the pressure off them. They don't feel the need to people please.
Yeah.
And they can and that's one of the things that I found as well. I don't do free consultations anymore, because I found that when I did it for free, somebody was like, oh, I've took an hour of your time. Oh,
yeah, and they feel obliged.
They feel obliged, the obligation to purchase or to book. So I take the consultation fee and then email saying that this is an educational hour, or just ask me as many questions, learn as much as you want, walk away. And then if you really want to do it, you can come back. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, this treatment's going to be here whether you decide today, tomorrow, or 6 months. And sometimes it takes 6 months.
See, I send a pre-assessment out to my patients.
Yeah.
So what happens is when somebody books an appointment, whether they book an appointment straight away, I send them the pre-assessment and I review that pre-assessment. And if I look at that pre-assessment and think, I can't help them, I let them know. Do you know? But if I look at that pre-assessment and think, I need to see this person before I make that judgment, I let them come in. Do you know? So it's a case of, like you said, about not selling anything. It's about just making sure that when they come to me and we sort of we do the consultation, we assess it, we find a preliminary diagnosis or an actual diagnosis. I send them away with a post-consultation information sheet, and it always has links.
Oh, yeah, brilliant.
And the links will be to something. And I always say to them in clinic, if an Amazon link comes through, I'm sorry, I'm not promoting Amazon. It's just because it's really easy to see.
It's very easy.
Yeah, to see the product, or if it's just from a pharmacist, I will just put what I say to the patient. Where's your nearest pharmacist? Is it a Lloyd's? Is it a Boots? And then I will go on their website while they're sat in front of me. Yeah. And that's what I will send to them, because sometimes people will get lost and funneled into sort of like, if you just said to them, I don't know, you need a 1% hydrocortisone cream or something like that for that, they'd be like, oh, what's that 1%? Yeah. Whereas if you send them a picture, or if you send them to their local pharmacy with a link,
literally,
there you go. Yes, I need this.
It's so much better. So I just changed hair colour. The girl she's incredible, who just did my hair, did this in one session. My hair's healthy, amazing. Thank you, Abby. But she wanted me to do the K18. I'm a hairdresser. I've got all of the skills to go out and buy it. But because I didn't have that link, like I've got busy and done other things. So I think that's something that I'm going to introduce, like a post, like email, which I don't do. I think because I've always been a bit scared of them feeling pressure. But if it's done, like you say, in that part of that process,
it's an information, and they've got it. Yeah. And they can go somewhere else and go back to it. Yeah. And because I talk a lot, literally the amount of people that sit there looking at me as if to go, I'm not going to remember all this. And I go, don't worry. And I can see the fear in their eyes. Yeah. And I go, don't worry, I'm going to send you this all after.
I think I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, it's just so that they can go, what did she say? Yeah. And it actually saves time. So that, say 5-10 minutes it takes to actually send, to fill that out.
So you're like writing the email?
No. I just make notes. If you could see this, I've got GP's handwriting. It's diabolical. There is no way that I would send it or give it to them handwritten. Okay. So what I tend to do is I have like an A4 piece of paper in front of me. Yeah. I write these notes in like a scruffy corner or something, what I need to send them. Yeah. And in that post-consultation it says the preliminary diagnosis or the actual diagnosis, what we're going to do. Yeah. What, say for instance, what steps they need to take. Yeah. And anything else that they need to know, and any advisories. So I have stylist advisories in mind. So if, say, for instance, they've got a condition that they really should avoid tension, they should avoid chemicals, they should avoid even things like light. Yeah. So say like, because say for instance, it's more an open wound or anything like that. They don't want to be using things like the climber zones or, do you know, anything that's going to actually irritate that. Yeah. So I would put that in that stylist advisories. If there's nothing, I just put, non-needed. Yeah. But literally I have a section for everything. Yeah. So that they know, and it gives them, like we said about giving a patient-centered, they then take control, whether they buy that, whether they, I even often, and maybe some trichologists don't do this, I will say to them, you can actually buy this online yourself. Yeah. But I can say provide it compound. So like but I tell them the two different. Yeah. So like things like minoxidil, say some of the over-counter minoxidils are very drying, very irritable. Yeah. And there's a lot of problems that a lot of people come back to me with that kind of thing. Yeah. So I tell them that, but I give them the option. The option of, I can get you this very similar priced. Yeah. Or you can do. You make that decision. Yeah. I don't make that decision for you. Yeah. And
I feel like with hair loss, like so many things are out of somebody's control, that having a bit of control even on what they purchase and where they purchase it from.
Yeah, informed, well informed.
Yeah. And empowering.
Yeah, it is.
To know that,
taking it back themselves. Yeah. Yeah. It is all about making like when you said about starting this podcast, it is about empowering women to be able to take control of their own lives and make a difference for themselves.
Yeah.
And if we can help anybody sort of on that journey, then this hour sat here doing this podcast is fab. It is.
I feel like we've talked quite well. It's so strange listening to it back, but it's like I keep getting distracted because there's eggs over there.
I liked them when I came in.
What are they for?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think they're just like little wooden egg spheres.
Are they wooden?
Yeah, they are, I think. I don't think they're real, Sharni.
I wonder.
Yeah, they're just going to sit there in a nice little hard-boiled egg.
I wonder if they're like a good look.
They're reminding you to eat protein.
Yeah.
Protein bear, superfood. But
That's so funny. I think that was brilliant. I don't even know what time it is.
No.
I feel like
10:30. Jeez.
So did we come at 9? Yeah, so we've got 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So that was all amazing, by the way. Loads better than doing like the other stuff. So basically like closing down and stuff. So we was going to do like one of the questions that I did get asked about, it was from a hair loss specialist, was, is it okay that our clients are only washing their hair once a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on every single person is unique. Like I said to you before, if that person's biome is very not greasy, doesn't produce a lot of sebums and things like that, they're not using a lot of products, that is perfectly fine. If you take that system off, there is always going to be that sort of white flaking skin that hasn't been able to sort of blow around, that we would normally just, that's hitting the mic, would normally just blow around in the ethos.
Yeah.
It's trapped underneath.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't see it till you wet it.
No.
As well.
And then it becomes like a sticky residue that you're sort of thinking, how do I get rid of this?
I don't know if we can talk about it but you mind. But when you told me to get the Body Shop,
the ginger shampoo, the prioritises,
absolutely game changer.
It's the small ingredients in some products. So when we talk about this, about products, and this could be a totally different podcast in itself.
Yeah, I know. I have had to relearn so much and accept that what I have thought to be true is wrong.
Yeah.
And just like
I've actually got a little list of just key ingredients. It's not the be all and end all of ingredients, so it's not a full list of everything that's sort of chemically there to be able to access, but some of the better ingredients, or the ones we use more often, so things like salicylic acid, hyaluronic acid, things like that, or even and sulfates, talking about sulfates and things like that. But there are so many products on the market that are accessible financially and where you can just get them there and then off the shelf. You haven't got to order them and wait 3 weeks for them to arrive. Or have a consultation with somebody like me to be able to buy. It's those little active ingredients. So with the Body Shop shampoo, the prioritises that's in that.
Is it that's
it's the actual ingredient, and it's making. The Body Shop have managed to make a shampoo that actually works on quite a lot of different types of hair.
Right, okay.
Because the sulfate that's in that is nice. It's a lower cleansing sulfate, but it actually is enough to lift off the scalp without drying the hair out at the same time.
Yeah.
So the composition isn't just the active ingredient that I was just talking about.
Okay.
It's everything else in between.
Yeah.
But it's the way that it delivers it on the scalp as well. So because of the sulfate that they use, it actually moves around the scalp. Whereas some of these lower sulfates, they're basically they can become quite sticky and stay behind, and they don't clean very well. And like I say, this is a totally different podcast in itself.
I think what I found, I didn't realise how good it was until I ran out. And then I was like, like I'm really missing it at the basin. But one of the things about that is that it's able to cleanse and soothe. Yeah. So sometimes when you get cleansing things, because the only way I can explain, or I ask for it, does it feel like this, is if someone's had a system on and they do have a scalp condition, or it's like taking a plaster off, and that skin is then exposed.
Yeah,
and then you're putting something cleansing on. And it'd be like, but I found that the Body Shop doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And it's really strange for me now to have like a little bottle of Body Shop shampoo in my salon and clinic, and like that would be the norm. And like understand that like there's things now in my cupboard that I would have cringed and rolled my eyes at, but
you've told people for years
not to like you can't buy that, and now I'm saying, oh, you can pop to the supermarket and get this, but it has to be this specific one because it's got these ingredients. And there are some the tough thing for me is that I have two things that I'm trying to take care of. Trying to take care of the scalp and the system. Yeah,
so the non-biological and the biological.
Yeah, and what is good for the scalp isn't necessarily good for the system. Like I have one client that she uses one shampoo on the bottom half of her head and one shampoo on the top because I need her to take care. She gets quite like psoriasis at the back. But it obviously dries the system out, and then it's expensive to replace. So again, it's about speaking to the client about the commitment, the time,
management,
the commitment to the system if you want it. Yeah. Says you're either going to have to buy more hair systems because we're going to need to replace them more because of your scalp, or you're going to have to spend longer in the shower and get crinkly because you're using two shampoos and doing it. But it has been a massive learning curve, and it's all thanks to you, and I am really grateful that I do have like a safe place to come and learn.
Honest, I think sometimes it's just about the honesty, because if I can honestly say at the minute, the marketing on the internet is vital. Do you know? Some of the questions that you'd actually sort of sent to me, do you know, sort of prior that we was going to generally chat about. We haven't got like a strict, do you know, sort of agenda. But some of the things that worry me about the industry, and this is why people need to be able to access truth and help themselves, empower themselves. Is because there is so many people out there on these social media platforms saying, you need this, and you need to use this, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And actually not having the correct diagnosis in the beginning, they could actually be causing more harm. And these people have got all of this hair because of genetics. Do you know, that say, for instance, somebody that's on TikTok selling this rosemary thing or whatever it is, they have good genetics, and they're saying, this made my... And I'm like, that would take 8 years to grow that. Do you know, there's no way on this earth that in 6 weeks that's
but
happened.
When you are in a place where you would do anything.
And it's the vulnerability of the people in our roles, we meet the most vulnerable, because no matter when people turn around and say, oh, it's only hair, until you lose your hair or you have a problem that actually affects you to that point. Affects you to that point, you can't comment on that, because the instability that I see, and you will see as well. Do you know, when people come through, they're at a loss, and they will buy into anything. I have people come through with carrier bags. They walk into my clinic and they sit down with a bag full of supplements, and I'm like, why? And half the time they're doing more harm. Okay. Especially with things like fat-soluble vitamins. That's another podcast in itself. Yeah. But literally, they come in and they've... Well, I had a young girl about 3 or 4 weeks before Christmas come to see me, and she was on 7 different supplements. Wow. Because she said, my friend's a nurse, she's gone through them, which she sort of had, but she was taking something like 300 times the amount of recommended daily... Wow. Recommended amount of vitamin B12. And I was like, even though the B vitamins aren't toxic, there's got to be some... And even if it's just gut health. Yeah, exactly. Do you know, things like that.
Doing it uninformed and then having to grieve when it don't work.
But she was spending about £400 a month on these silly supplements. And actually, what she had wrong with her was genetic. Yeah. So none of the supplements was actually going to do anything. Yeah. So her coming to me, she spent 9 months losing 60% of her hair. Oh, bless her. Spent 3 months taking millions of supplements that actually were going to have no benefits whatsoever. If she'd have come to me in the first, if in them 6 months, before she'd have gone to buy all these supplements, she would have saved herself £1,000 just paying a consultation fee and actually having the answers and a correct pathway. Yeah. So knowing where to go.
Yeah. I always tell my clients this as well when they're even thinking about different like shampoos, Midoxanil. I'm like, just go and see if you, the thing is, by seeing a trichologist, you're going to know what's going to work for them and where they're going to invest the money.
Yeah.
It's worth investing that, like you say, the consultation fee at the beginning to know that you're not wasting money for the next 12 months.
Yeah.
And like, it, yeah.
Because people intermittently use
now.
these things as well, like you just said about minoxidil. I have patients come to see me all the time and they go, and in the pre-assessment, it says things like, have you ever used?
Right.
And they come back with, in 2022, I used minoxidil for 3 months. Then in 2023, I used it for 6 months. And actually that in itself is going to cause hair loss because using minoxidil intermittently causes shedding.
Because does it make your hair shed first?
Not always.
Okay.
So I've only actually seen, and I think we know the person, the only person I've ever seen with such a shock loss was a lady that came to me a few years back on your direction.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've ever seen that kind of shock loss.
Reaction.
But I think what a lot of it is with minoxidil is because it keeps the hair in that growth phase for longer, you're basically interrupting a natural cycle. So you're going to have that sort of disruptive behaviour from the hair, but it doesn't tend to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
It's very rare that it's catastrophic, but using it like that, dipping in and out of something, that's like taking medication for, say, like heart problem.
Yes.
For 3 months, stopping it for 6 months. That heart is not going to be happy.
No.
It's an organ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your hair is an organ. It grows from within.
Yeah.
This bit's dead, but the bit that grows and has a turnover and is cellularly active is inside. And if you're going to be using something that actually promotes this and you're going to intermittently stop and start, you're going to have some problems there.
Yeah.
So for me, utilising...
It'll not say that on the side of the bottle.
Oh, never in a million years. And this is what I mean by getting a correct diagnosis first for me would be my number one. If you're going to give somebody a message, go out, ask for it. Nothing's a silly answer. Nothing's a silly question. Yeah. Just ask. Yeah. I have people reach out to me. Do you think it would be what? And I always say to them, if I think I can help, I'll go, definitely. If not, I'll go, give it another 3 months. Yeah. If it still hasn't corrected itself, come back to see me. I'm always here. And it's about leaving that door open, making sure that that person knows that they can contact you, especially like my patients that come, diagnosed, treatment. I never see anybody really within 9 months. Okay. I do if they're really anxious. Yes. Because I let them, I'm there as their comfort blanket. I'm their scaffold, really. So for me, because I like them to have a visual growth or a visual effect or a visual management. Yeah. So, and it takes that long. Yeah. Because hair's so slow growing. We think there's no quick mirror. There's no quick fixes. No, and it takes so long. So, like when I look at things microscopically. I would. Whereas you look at things physically. Yeah, and I always anatomically. Do you know? Whereas I look at things inside. But I will say if someone reached out to me and I'm having some hair loss and I want to see if you could help me, my first message is always to them, I am here for the aesthetics, like the way things look on the outside. I'll help you with your confidence, that kind of thing. But I can't diagnose or tell you anything. We need to get you this diagnosis. Like you say, there's no quick fix. But if they have the diagnosis, then I can do the aesthetic stuff, which is like a nice comfort blanket. It's like complementary. They work together. Yeah. I think that's why it's important that the industry understands its place and that when we need to refer into others and that it is actually like a team effort. You, me, and the client, and together you can have like successful, whether it's hair loss systems or wigs, because all of these things, even wearing toppers, need to be looked at and managed because everything, if not done correctly on the right person, can cause damage. So I just think overall it's just so important that we have this safe community. We can refer into each other without judgment so that we can make it better and improve the standard and that clients know how they should be treated, how they should feel when they're in an appointment and a consultation, and that they can go to all of these different people and see what feels right for them. Yeah, totally. I just think I'm just really glad that I found you when I did. Because it's been a massive... ditto. But it's massively helped and affected my business. I wouldn't have a lot of the successful systems that I have and clients if I didn't have that support. But we all need support, whether it be at home, friends, we all need somebody or a group that we can actually come back. Yeah, and so like you've got your hair loss practitioners that come into you to train and you keep them as part of a community so that they've got that safe space they can come back to. I have the same with my peer group. So I have surgeons, dermatologists, pharmacists, other trichologists, that we all work together as a team. And if one doesn't know something, there's always somebody.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And that is perfectly fine. And sometimes you have to you just have to swallow the pride, pass it out.
I did a post. I don't think it was received very well, but I did a post the other day and it just said, leave your ego at the door.
Exactly.
And I think it was quite a harsh post, and I hope that people actually read what I'd wrote. Not many people liked it, because I think it might be a few home truths.
Yeah.
But it's like, ego is the one thing that's going to trip you up.
Yeah.
If you think you know everything, you're going to make mistakes. Yeah. If you think when you make a mistake, it's not your fault, and it's just not your fault. It is not. I'm not saying that if something happens, it's my fault or the client's, but something's happened, and the ego has to be put to one side, and we have to figure out what it is to be successful together.
I remember when I finished my training, I did a 2-year mentorship afterwards to get my MIT. Rather than just being an AIT, I did a 2 years mentorship. Yeah. And I remember in the beginning thinking, I know all this. And actually, some of the things I was sending back in, like, because we have to do like case studies and things like that, the feedback, I was like, I really was fighting back against it. And I've got no ego. Do you know, my ego literally, my ego's on the M180 somewhere, do you know? Left over there with the sheep in the field. Yeah. But literally I was like, how dare you, how very dare you, do you know, kind of thing. And actually that process of 2 years of somebody scrutinising everything that I'm evaluating made me a better practitioner, made me a better trichologist, because I look at things now differently. We always have something called a differential diagnosis. Okay. So in our sort of assessments, we have to look at what we see, but what else could it be? So we have to think about outside the box. Yeah. That's why I said to you about like a timeline type thing. So it's thinking outside. Am I seeing something that's actually real, or is it an expression of something else? Yeah. Do you know? So you have to think, and that actual 2 years of somebody pulling my skills apart made me a better practitioner. I've never had a manager. Well, since I was 20, I've worked for myself.
Yeah, me too.
So for somebody to come in and go, you're doing this wrong. And I was like, excuse me.
Yeah. And I think that's why mentorship's important, and working with other independents, because especially ones that you trust. Yeah. Because I can take scrutiny from someone I trust. Even like,
but I will not take somebody's scrutiny who hasn't got any experience in my job. Yeah, I'm like, no.
And do you know who I take the most scrutiny from, and I enjoy their feedback, is my client. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows better than the person wearing the system that I'm putting on. Yeah. So the first thing that I ask when they come back is, what do you think? How has it felt? What do you think we could do better? What
I thought you was going to say Molly, your daughter, because I think sometimes we have to look, because we always learn from people. So like one of my tutors he had really retired. Yeah. And then I'd got tutors that were really, do you know, sort of like young, and do you know, sort of like, and you have to have that. Yeah. You have to have the input from, because I think one will give you years of experience, and one will give you a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, Molly, one of the things, she when she first started coming into the clinic helping me after my op, she was like, Mum, this music is so depressing. I was like, what do you mean? It's calming. She's like, have you actually listened to it? Like, people are coming in here to feel good, and you're putting this like a fresh set of eyes and a set of ears. Yeah, completely changed the experience for my client, because I just thought, it's very nice background music, but it is part of the experience, them coming in, they're already emotional, then I'm putting Celine Dion on. Like, so fresh set of eyes and ears in every respect is obviously, it's always welcome.
Yeah, totally.
So it's been absolutely amazing. I'm really grateful for your time. I hope that you've got as much from it as what I have, and it's been amazing. And for people that don't already know, because I think a lot of my students will already know who you are, where can people find you online?
Well, I was going to say, I do have a website. We can put all of the information down
as well.
You can communicate with me in any way possible, really. Do you know, I am on all platforms apart from TikTok, just because
stay off TikTok.
I'm just not the greatest social media monster, if I'm brutally honest. I just think some things I'm a bit more of a private person.
Yeah.
And I've never once had a patient from social media.
It's always referrals.
It's always referral or somebody that has, in their own time, done the research to find the professional they need.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, but yeah, I'm on social media as in Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
So they can communicate with me anyway, really. Or even just contact you and you can pass my details on.
Yeah, I'll pass the details on.
Yeah.
And what's your website?
Just East Coast Trichology.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute
Thank you for having
pleasure.
me.
I'll speak to you soon.
You will.